We're the best netball podcast ever. Hi, I'm Chris, and I'm just about to put another shrimp on the barbie.
Hi, I'm Carla, and I'm sadly not in Australia and currently cringing at Chris's terrible attempt at an Australian accent.
Was it terrible?
Yes.
It sounded all right to me. I thought I sounded like Kylie Minogue.
I don't think so, my friend. And certainly not when you sing.
Jason Donovan?
Let's tell our listeners why we are even remotely trying to do an Australian accent. We have an awesome guest coming on today, and we are talking, and we're not talking all SSN, we are talking about netball generally, coaching, but definitely a reference to our friends over in the SSN, as we have an interview coming up with the awesome Gez Murphy.
For those that don't know, SSN stands for Suncorp Super League, which is Australians Super League, and it's probably, I'm going to say, a bit like the lager drink, one of the best in the world.
I mean, it really is the best in the world, as much as I'm sure all the other countries are trying to keep up, but they are world-class netballers. And the league, I mean, loads of our listeners will listen. We've obviously got thousands of listeners in Australia already. It is so good, so compelling to watch. I think you just get drawn in. I'm just finding there's not enough hours in the day, and I've got a couple of matches I've got to go back and watch, which I'm very excited about, because it means that at least this kind of super exciting world-class netball will last that little bit longer for me now both seasons have finished.
So I read somewhere, Gary, that in the SSN, a lot of players are 6'4" and over.
6'4" is absolutely crazy. Can you imagine if I was marking them? I absolutely love the game now. I mean, it is better. I'm gonna say it, put it out there, but I also think it's just different from the NSL league in our country. The speed of their ball movement, the creativity, it's another level. But we love both. And obviously we're huge NSL fans because we are right here in the UK.
I think we're just very lucky that it's all broadcast and we're able to obviously watch it until the day when Akuma maybe sponsor us to do our Australian World Tour and charter us a jet.
I like that you put that out there. Hopefully they're listening. If for any reason I do ever go on holiday in Australia, I will absolutely time that holiday to make sure I get to go and watch an SSN match. It would be awesome.
So let's get on with our very special guest today. He had a lot to say. All of it was absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. I think the insight into the coaching world that he puts over. I said to Bex the Boss when we knew he was going to be interviewed that I didn't want to go in unprepared. I've seen obviously some of the games. I've seen the Melbourne Mavericks playing, and I did some research. I say some research lightly because I watched every single interview I could find and learn every single bit of information that I could about him. So hopefully he doesn't now think I'm a bit of a stalker. But it was really great to kind of fully understand where he's coming from and his knowledge and his information. I love the fact that he's so prepared to share that with everybody, because some people obviously just absorb all that knowledge and then they keep it. You don't get to hear it. But all the interviews he's done, all the broadcasting work he's done, he's just giving that back. And I just loved that. He was such a breath of fresh air to speak to. Sadly, you weren't on the interview, which I'm very glad meant that we didn't have any kind of attempt at an Australian accent, because that would have just been horrendous. And I did have to get up pretty early to do the interview because he is the other side of the world.
I mean, obviously I am of an age now where beauty sleep is really important, but also I want to put it out there to our Australian listeners. If any of you can help me slightly tweak my Australian accent, please get in touch, because I think it's nearly there.
I think I disagree. Let's move on to our special guest, Gez Murphy. Today, we're joined by one of the most exciting coaches in Australian netball. With over 15 years of experience across the Victorian pathway, he's built a reputation for developing players, building winning cultures and getting the very best out of his team. Now in his first season as head coach of the Melbourne Mavericks, he's led the club to a historic milestone, their first ever top 4 finish and final campaign in the Suncorp Super Netball League. We're looking forward to chatting about his coaching journey, leadership and life beyond netball, and what it takes to succeed at the very highest level. I'm very pleased to welcome Gez Murphy. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me.
So we're on the whole other side of the world over here. How is it over there in Oz at the minute? I'm assuming the sun's probably shining.
No, it's not really. I mean, it's not been too bad today. Hitting the middle of winter now, so not as bad as your winter, but it is cool and it's been relatively nice during the days. We just had captain's run at John Cain Arena this afternoon. We've got our game tomorrow against Firebirds, so did that, and then now just doing some work on the house.
Busy. Let's get straight into it. Let's talk Mavericks. You guys have made the top 4 for the first time in the club's history. So looking back at that, what was the single biggest change that's made that possible?
Well, tough one. I think the changes in the list, look, I think the team last year were pretty hard done with the injuries that impacted them on the start of the season, and they were very close to finals even in the first year. So I think it was just setting the program up, and now we're in year 3. Like everything in the program is running smoothly. And there's a lot of work that goes into a brand new club. The Mavericks didn't come from a state-based netball organization where events, memberships, the support structure existed. So now I think everything has been worked out, and I've kind of walked into, hired into a structure which is much more established now, and a lot of those teething issues were no longer there. And I think list management, which included Tracy at the time, I think did a good job and I would have picked the people that they have ended up picking anyway as well. So in terms of the people, the players that were selected, definitely I think that's a part of it, is having the right balance of the athletes. Culturally, this group of athletes is very strongly aligned. There's not really any outliers in the culture that Mavs have. Yeah, the support team's pretty stable. And so I've been able to come in and really just focus on coaching and align, I guess, with what's been done, what worked well previously, and then just bring my flavor, I guess, to it. The girls have taken on the game plans and strategies and the model that I've evolved a little bit more. I have a different style, of course, so building that style in, I think, has worked pretty well, and trying to find the best out of the girls. So one of just my biggest concept is, how can I get the most out of each player to be their best? And not everyone is going to be the best in the world, but if you can get everyone to be at their best, as close to that, I feel like you're going to be in a pretty good position, and you can use their strengths as much as possible. So that's probably where we've been sitting at for this season.
I mean, you make that sound so simple. We all know it's absolutely not, and there's so much to it. So it's a real credit to your team. I can totally understand what you mean about the list. Obviously, it is so important to get those right players, and it must be quite challenging when you come in having that already in place. I mean, you're coaching literally some of the biggest names in the netball world, like Jamie Lee Price, for example. Do you ever find it intimidating leading players with such an incredible experience and status, or do you just simply see them as just people?
It is initially, it's more getting to know them. And then once I actually know them and we started, I was very comfortable. Look, I've been coaching for a long time, and I know I haven't been coaching at SSN, but I've coached in challenging teams where we've lost seasons by 10 and 15 goals, and then rebuilding a team back up to be consistent finals placed, to coaching at, the top men's tournament in Australia and with my Open Vic men. And that's a really challenging environment and tournament structure with all state teams and other things I've been in. So I've been floating around a long time. So I've been able to, I guess, refine an approach, I think, where I am very comfortable with my capability as a coach. And so I think the girls trust that with Richo, we have a plan that they can engage with and will help them perform, and that we are invested in them being their best and improving. So if the girls are successful, then I'm successful as well. So it is just always trying to keep that in mind, is that if I can help the girls play their best, and if they can drive that performance element, then I'm going to benefit from that, because it just becomes self-fulfilling and reinforcing just constantly. And then they just, continually buy in more. And then we can then adapt the strategies more and make it really difficult to combat against us, because the style of play, I guess, that we have, that's quite, we call it morphing, but it's very adaptable depending on what's happening. So yeah, that's probably where I sit.
I mean, you talked then about trust, and I remember in one of the interviews you once said that feedback comes from a place of trust, saying that without feeling like a weird stalker that's watched your interviews. But I just absolutely love that. How do you build trust with elite athletes before if you've ever had to give really difficult feedback? How do you keep that trust in place, which clearly is so important in your level of success?
I also take like those statements with a level of success, obviously in one season where, I've walked in and obviously we've had some improvements. So I definitely, as a coaching and high performance team, will take that on. But also I think in terms of just being successful, success is as good as the last game you played, almost like the last season you're in. And I think some of the coaches that have been around with long-term success is very challenging. We were just talking yesterday about some of the coaches who are coming up 8 and 10 years in SSN is very challenging. You have to keep evolving, I think, yourself. And so from my perspective, appreciate that this season, I guess, has that trust part is important to build that straight away. And it has to happen pretty quickly. The methods, I guess, that we obviously have different touch points with the athletes. There's pre-game, in the game, and then post-game. And I think even in those different times, there's different ways that you can build trust. You obviously have training and then the things that happen around training. And for example, we have a weekly catch-up with the athletes post-game where you go through all the feedback. And each of those touch points, we'll call them, or data points, is an opportunity to reinforce that it is about the athlete's performance and improvement. Like it is just about, we are all bought into helping you improve and be your best that you can be. And so trying not to contradict our messaging too much as a coach, because I think watching sort of junior coaches or development coaches across the pathway that I've been involved in, I think sometimes they sabotage their message a little bit. And I'll give you like an example of that. If you put your player on for the last 5 minutes of a quarter and you have expected them or given them a target, don't make any errors, for example, and then the player makes an error and then you take them off and don't play them again, how can that player trust you in that? If my messaging to the athletes is, I have faith in you, I'm going to give you opportunities, but then I put you on for 5 minutes, you make one error, and then I drag you and don't put you back on. Those are little moments in an athlete, I think, that we as coaches should be really careful with how we navigate those situations. And so that's something that I try to be very conscious of. And we're never going to be perfect at it, and I'm certainly not. But I think just the conscientious part of it, which is, and if I do make that mistake, is actually acknowledging it with the athletes and saying, hey, Amy, I'm really sorry. I think I actually shouldn't have done that because I think it sent this message to you. Is that what you received? And being okay to say that with the athlete or how did you receive that? Was that I was trying to send it this way, but is that what you thought? And I think there's those making sure that you're aware in those different touch points that you have with the athletes across your season or your week. And that varies, of course, depending on the environment that you have. And if you're, state league coach, you only see your athletes twice a week, maximum 3 times a week. So it is really important if you can nail those parts, I think, about how you communicate and the way you interact and engage with your players. So that's probably something that we've been really conscious of trying to make sure that we are doing. And with 10 players and earlier in the season, definitely was experimenting and playing around a little bit more where it's experimenting, putting players on in super shot times only, in 5s and 10s and talking to them about that and being open about it. Hey, we're going to give you a shot here, see how it goes. And then it's a very balanced because you're still there to win, but also it's to develop the players. So it's just this really fine balance of making sure that we're trying to set them up for success as much as possible. So I think that's a big part. And then the other thing, I guess my focus is on, if we identify things that in the game and I've given feedback, or if we've said, hey, look, you're coming off, I think this is probably not working very well, let's change it. And sometimes as a coach, you don't have a really good foundation necessarily for why you made a change. You felt like you needed to make it. And I think it is helpful if you can establish some clear reasons why, and it can just be to make a change. I think this probably might be a better matchup against this opposition, and that is satisfactory. It doesn't have to be you made 5 errors, when sometimes it is that, but actually it can just be I thought there was a disconnect between the center pass and the goal, so we're going to make a change. And then as long as I think when we get to training, if we can evaluate that game and then go back into training and give the athletes an opportunity to practice those moments where we thought the breakdown was. So that's a big part of, I guess, my coaching philosophy and the way Richo and I work is let's give them an opportunity to go back through those scenarios at training. What was the breakdown? Was it a skill error? Was it a decision error? Or was it what the opposition was doing? And were you prepared for that? okay, if not, let's get you some time to practice that as much as possible at training so that when it happens again in a game, you're going to be more successful. They're sort of, I guess, the main things are what we focused on to try to help the girls be more successful on court.
It shows though, doesn't it, that obviously every coach needs real tactical knowledge to do their job properly, but the very best, the brilliant coaches are the ones that use the psychology as much as they use the tactical element of netball. And clearly that's working so effectively in the team that you're creating. Let's look at the development pathway for a minute. It's really important, obviously, to look at the talent. I know your background has very much come from developing that talent. What's the biggest mistake we see when coaches are working those pathways, when they're trying to identify that young talent?
I really enjoy coaching in the pathways and have done and continue to do that as well. And I really enjoy that part of coaching. While I love the high performance part, those other development parts are really important. And identifying athletes, there's probably, let's go with 2 parts initially. I think the first thing is coaches identifying that what is actual or now potential versus future potential. And I think as players go through pathway, there will naturally be athletes that develop earlier and are the top of their age groups, but will probably or possibly not make it to another level. And that could just be because they're physically developed faster. And so compared to athletes at their age right now, those athletes are a bit faster, they're a bit more mature, they're a bit smarter, but there's also the other parts of the physical attributes as well that you have to look at for long-term athlete. And then there's the psychological part as well. So if you have players, I think sometimes when you're watching them, and I'll watch with coaches, and the player, they would call them a player with a bit of attitude. So they might have a little whinge at the umpire or kind of roll their eyes a little bit more and just be a bit more, like what's going on. And I think some of those athletes are untapped potential, like where they actually are over trying. Like it's sometimes because they want to win so badly, which is a good thing that they have drive and grit and determination and ambition to win and perform and be better, that it comes out sometimes in a negative way that impacts negatively on a team. And also in the coaching environment, they can be harder to coach because their drives are different to the rest of the group who might be more compliant or happier to just roll along and not be noisy, I guess. But then there's a group of athletes that I think who are showing the athletic potential, the aptitude for netball IQ, I call it, that perhaps could be given a bit more opportunity to work on that stuff and guide them through. And I don't want to say tolerate, but it is a little bit of trying to get the best out of those athletes, because I've seen many of them that if you give them a bit more time and you can help them, guide them through on the psych side and how they manage their performance anxiety or their drive for performance, I think there's a missed opportunity where you can actually tap into those athletes and they can become really high-performing long-term potential. And so that's part of it, I think, is the developing versus the potential. And not all athletes, of course, have stronger attitudes, I would say. There's obviously just athletes that haven't grown yet, for example, but are showing skill acquisition, which is very fast, or they're showing great court craft, or they're very coachable. And I think they may not be ready yet, but sometimes those athletes are important to pick in your teams to balance out your teams for future opportunity, and knowing that, hey, this one actually might be okay. If you've got a 6'4" girl at 14 who is not necessarily the best at catching, she needs to be picked and give her a chance, because at the top level, like, that's what you need. You need a couple of tools. You need some tall, not everyone. And I think that's the beauty of netball, is that you can kind of be any shapes and sizes. You really need a tall defender, a tall shooter, and ideally one tall mid-quarter perhaps. But in between that, you can be kind of all shapes and sizes and still play a role and be effective, because that's the rules of netball are so unique that each position has a role to play, that you can manipulate the roles that each of your team play for their strengths and weaknesses and make it a successful combo. So not all players should, or you want them to be the same. That would probably be another thing, is like, do you really want to pick a mid-court that is all plays the exact same style, has the same body type, has the same athletic ability and skills? Like, what is the change going to do for you? It doesn't allow you to have creativity or change a game plan or match up against an opposition. So again, I like and encourage coaches to do that, to broaden their variety in their players as well, to give them a bit more opportunity and have a look, and also helps coaching, I think, too. And then the final part probably is, sometimes selectors are doing it to win. So their selection is made just on winning. And so I think one of the important things in Pathway is setting the expectation of what are your rules of engagement for your club with your athletes. Are you rotating? Do you have a minimum standard of court time? And I think that should be clear to players who are coming to your club. And ideally for me, I think it's important that the minimum standard is like half, for example, half a game, regardless an athlete is going to get half a game. And so you're guaranteeing them development. And it may mean that you lose, but that's 13 and under, 15 and under at junior Pathway. And sometimes it can be the next level up. You might lose some games, and different in a final. You know, I think our principle at the juniors is during finals, we won't necessarily rotate. But during the round games, your child will definitely get this amount of court time. And I think some of those principles make a big difference because it takes the pressure off the coach a little bit in the association. It's like, here's the rules that we go by and this is what we do. And then you learn to maneuver and manipulate your players and make sure that you've got better engagement with your athletes. You retain some of those athletes that may be on the fringe who are, you know, between that social versus performance, and it still gives them an opportunity. It makes it a bit more fun for them and you retain them in the pathway better. And it makes, I think, a more inclusive club. So I think some of those things is probably where I sit and on things to look out for, I guess, in the pathway.
Let's move across slightly. From your perspective, what are the biggest difference between Australian netball and the UK game, and what could each league learn from each other? And that's one of our most asked questions. When we said that you were coming on, that's what people kind of want to know. How much does Australian netball compare with the UK version?
It's also similar with the New Zealand netball. There are certainly some different styles in it. I find in the New Zealand and the English are a bit more similar. I would say the English and the New Zealand styles, and the things that I see as similarities, I guess. A lot of two-handed chest passes, chest and waist passing. There's more of that, I think. There's a lot of two-handed passes that in Australian and SSN, but it's a lot more two-hand overhead, where I think there's a lot more lateral play and backwards play in the New Zealand and English leagues a bit more. Just my observation would be that that's just a slight variance in style. The Australian style will tend to persist with more down the line, and I guess we would call it work rate and re-offer, which is like, just because you didn't get it on 1 second, you need to work again to get it on 2 or 3, and you need to work hard to get that ball, and the passer needs to execute that pass to find the space to get it to that player. And then I guess the philosophical is, if that player is not available, you give it to the next available and it will work its way through type model, I think. I must say, I don't watch that much of the Super League. I probably watch 1 game a week of the NSL. So I'm not I don't watch 100 games of it. By the time I watch all the SSN and stuff, I'm netballed out most of the time. And I watch probably one New Zealand game a fortnight perhaps, just to see what's going on and if emerging players and a few players that we're like scouting to see if we could recruit or if we've got any gaps, who's coming through. And also for diamonds and roses and things and silver ferns, I like to see who's coming through those pathways and who's going to be present at Com Games. Interesting, there's a lot of, I'm going to say, 2-foot landing. In Australia, it's we never coach to land with 2 feet. It's a very rare thing that we would coach. We coach a lot of single hand around left and right shoulder passes, as well as single foot landing, like a 1-2. Whereas I find watching the Super League and a lot in New Zealand, there's a lot of 2 foot and then onto that, which I don't know, is just not an odd thing. In terms of the game style, you know, the rules, it's all relatively similar.
We're so lucky, aren't we, privileged now that there is so much great netball everywhere for us all to watch, and you could kind of pick the bit that I think inspires you or interests you the most. Elite athletes are driven by success, but failure, we all know, is inevitable. How do you help players mentally recover after a poor performance or a significant loss? How do you help them personally?
I guess as a philosophy, I think it's important that, like you and ours is, you need to enjoy what you're doing though. So of course we're there to win. Like at the end of the day, we love to win. Winning is fun. Like my motto, winning is fun. I don't find, like, I'm not a fun person generally, I would say. But winning is fun and I really enjoy that. But I enjoy netball. I enjoy the environment and the coaching, and that joy part is probably what an emphasis is enjoy what you're doing, be challenged. And I think with the more challenge, the more support that's needed for that. And you have to back that up with very good technical correction and support. And when I say high challenge, it's not necessarily a challenge to the athlete, like, you're not doing enough. It's more, what are you doing in this situation? Are you prepared to do that? What do you think you could do? So it's more like I guess, a mental or stimulation challenge as opposed to a verbal challenge, if that makes sense. And so I think there's that part, which is enjoy it. You will be less fearful of making mistakes because that's a big part of, I think there's a fear of people who making mistakes is like, you're going to make mistakes. Like you look at SSN and any of the top competitions around the world, it's very rare to have under 20 errors a game. And so you're looking at minimum of 5 a quarter. For other levels like state league and then going down to juniors, you're looking more like 10 errors a quarter. So let's just rationalize that you are going to make mistakes. We're just trying to minimize them to be at a reasonable level for your standard. So for each age group, of course, under 13 unders, 11 unders, they're going to have more errors, and that's just the way the game works. And if you have less, of course you're going to win more, but I think the emphasis should be on development and trial and error and game sense and other bits, and seeing them make improvements in their different skill execution and their tools that they've got to practice. A lead and drop, a change of direction, a roll off, what style of attacking moves do you have? Can you step around? Can you give and go? Can you fake and go the other way? Can you screen? Can you practice all these little skills that you've got and tools? And you might not execute them, nor should you at 13 and 15 and under well, but are you doing it 1 in 3, or have you attempted it? And then did you get better as it went? Awesome. Let's change the benchmark, I think, from being 100% execution to did the execution improve? And if it's gradually improving, well, that's a win. And if you keep improving all the time, I think that results in a win. And I think that helps manage expectations a little bit. I think athletes, we would say, self-sabotage sometimes because the expectation on themselves is so high that they are destined for failure. If you set yourself up that you are never going to make an error in a game, how does your mindset approach that? That's already a failure-based mindset. And I think from over my time playing as well, and that was something that I had, which caused a lot of conflict for me, and also aggressive playing style and angry and frustration, which actually was not beneficial for me, and I don't think has been beneficial for many of the athletes that I have coached over time and gradually shifted into this model, which is your expectations are unrealistic in the game. If you actually just lowered your expectation, then you have a chance to actually shoot past them, which is a much nicer situation, environment, and also mentality to have. That would be something that we talk about and I would look at for coaches and the athletes coming back from setbacks is, where did you set your goal at? Because was it the right goal? And I think outcome-based goals are a result of everything that you do. You win games because you do each center pass, each long court throw in, each defensive pattern, each center pass defense. You're doing something that is positively impacting. And if you can do that more than the opponent or the opposition, you will probably win, and that outcome will sort itself out. So I like the discussion about the goals that we're setting and what is our benchmark, and are they outcome-based or are they progression-based or improvement-based? And because the sky's the limit when it's improvement-based. If we're just constantly aiming for better, and celebrating though as we go, I think is important too. And we obviously embrace that part with the girls. And I probably was a bit of a stickler earlier on in my coaching. I would be like, "Oh, we're not serious enough. Why are you celebrating that? We haven't even won yet." It was like, we only won by a goal. That was terrible. And that's what I would have said, 15 years ago at times when I started coaching, and 10 years ago even. I've been like, "Why are we celebrating? We just only won by 2 goals." It's like, we won by 2 goals. Like, yeah, it could have been better, but we still won. Who cares? So that was a big shift in mentality, I think, for me and with the athletes. And I really do think it creates a much nicer environment. You can still be firm and accountable and have benchmarks and things, but the overall philosophy of, we want to do better. We want to have less errors, or at least achieve an error rate that's realistic. We want to have a goal rate that's realistic, and percentages and whatever else that's realistic. And we want to keep goaling towards that. So those things are still there. And at practice, we're accountable for how hard we've worked, and if we've all put in, and all that as parts. So
it makes such good sense. And I think it's just such a good example there of that full circle, isn't it? You're trying to teach this good mentality to learn from your mistakes and evolve. And that's really important for coaches too, isn't it? And to learn, practice what you preach almost, and see the results of that. Thank you.
And I will say that, like, even to the girls early in the season, and I will say, I was like, I think I made a mistake doing that. Sorry. Like, I made a change. I don't think I should have made that change. I should have made it earlier. And actually having the discussion at times with them as well is that trust part too. It comes back to that, which is how you build trust is like, well, I'm being open with them about why I thought maybe I could have done better with that. And being careful, of course, not to berate a player to say, I shouldn't have made that change because you failed. Like, that's not the reason. I should have made that change earlier so that you had more time to settle in. Or actually at that moment, the game was just in too much pressure. I should have done it earlier, or I should have changed this, or I missed that the opposition were running a wall to a zone. I just completely didn't see it and didn't coach correctly or give you enough cues to actually coach yourself out of it. Yes, I would hope that you would know it as a player, but sometimes it's a relationship, and if we can identify it faster and I can help, that's why we have timeouts, that's what quarter time, that's why I'm the coach, is to be able to do that and help them through those moments. And again, just those parts. So I think that helps with the trust building and the relationship that you have, is to be able to be open like that too.
Yeah, really open and really self-reflective, isn't it? Makes a huge difference. I'm slightly off topic, but I'm interested to ask. So I grew up with Cavalier King Charles Spaniels, and I know you have them too. Are they a perfect way to switch off from the intensity of elite sport? Because I can imagine the pressure at times must be unbearable.
Oh, I love the dogs. They're so cute. I love King Charles Cavaliers. They're beautiful dogs. Gigi and Fred, they are very happy. Gigi in particular gets very more animated when I'm not around. But it's great. Like morning walk, afternoon walk, like when I get home, getting out of the house. I think just as a good practice for health is like just getting out of the house in the morning to walk, get some air, get your body moving, even if it's 10 minutes, just quickly around the block or whatever it is. I think it's just nice to get your blood flow moving and your hormones and everything rolling along. And then likewise in the evening, I think it's nice to get out, and if there's any sunlight left, and you know what it's like in winter, there's not a lot, the days are short, but certainly in the summer and things, it's just really nice to get out. And obviously with dogs, it's a simple life. They love just sniffing around and having a play, and then you just get a bit of time to stretch and ponder what's going on, and get out in the air and nature a little bit. So yeah, I really love that part of the discipline, I guess, that having that also forces you to do. And of course, there's couch cuddles, which they will jump on any moment to cuddle on the couch or bed or whatever it is. They're Gigi in particular, she's a lap dog, so she'll jump straight on any lap that's available to her and snuggle in and be happy. So yeah, they're cute.
Very cute. Mine was called Jodie, and I absolutely adored her growing up. If you could spend 1 hour coaching with anyone in any sport, past or present, who would you choose?
It would be, I think, like the head coach of the Chicago Bulls when Michael Jordan was playing and when they had Dennis Rodman, which is Phil Jackson, I think. And the reason why I watched his doco and I really liked the different style and philosophy they clearly had. They had obviously amazing individual players, but also managing. You know, at one time, like Dennis Rodman went to Vegas for a weekend, but that was because that's what he needed as an athlete and for him to perform. And I really like that kind of philosophy of, do all your athletes have to prepare and do everything the same? Is that actually getting the best out of the athletes? And I think that was a nice little awakening. So I would have liked to have watched what it was really like in the environment and see, and especially with someone like Jordan, who is obviously an exceptional athlete. But also for him, he wasn't exceptional as a youngster. It really happened later. So again, the discipline and what happened and how he did that and how that team evolved. And of course, there's an Aussie in there, Luke Longley, with Dennis Rodman and Scott Pippen and stuff, who were legacy, I guess, legends. So yeah.
And when your coaching career is over, what do you hope people remember about Gez Murphy? And not necessarily the results or the teams, but the person, about you.
Like no fuss, goes about the business and has a good model for, like, that's athlete based around empowering and supporting the athletes, and realizing that sport's not forever. Like, sport's forever, but elite sport is not forever, and to embrace all the moments that you have, the good and the bad. I think that's an awesome philosophy, and hopefully that comes out in the teams and athletes and the people who I interact with as I'm coaching.
I'm going to do a quick fire round now, if that's okay. Buckle up.
Yeah, I'm terrible at these.
What's the first thing you do after a win?
Just sit down and with Richard and we relish in the joy of a good win, and then eat, and that's it, and debrief. Well, we don't even debrief. Actually, it may shock you, we don't really debrief after the game much with the girls. We just sing the song and then we leave it until sort of early in the week. So for some people, we're like, what? You don't do a thing after the game? No, I mean, because we have obviously structured week and we have time for that in the week. But yeah, so that may surprise people.
Who is the funniest player you've coached?
I'll do in our team at the moment is Pav is definitely I would say she's the funniest.
Which player would make the best coach on your current team?
Maybe Tara. I think she's got a good style and philosophy. I think Maddie actually would be pretty good too. And then probably Sasha. Like they're three, I think, that are game sense wise and sort of they'd like to get into the details a bit more about things. So I think they're probably good coaches. I think I like coaches that get into the detail who can do that and then come back in and out of the detail. I think helps for coaches to be able to do that.
Which player would you least trust to organise a team trip from your current team?
She's going to kill me for this, Amy.
Your favourite on-court position to coach?
Probably goal attack. The goal attack because I think it's the most complicated.
Underrated quality in an elite athlete?
I think the ability for them to rebound, like just their ability to just keep and sometimes ignore the bad stuff. And like they may not have played the best. They don't dwell, they just move on straight away and they rebound off it and go on, all right, cool, we're back on to, and they stay consistent with that. I think is a powerful characteristic or attribute.
If Mavs had a karaoke night, who's grabbing the microphone first?
Everyone, mate. We do have them, and the girls love to sing. There are lots of them. There's a big bunch of them, and we do sing-offs before the game. This is meant to be quick fire, and I'm terrible at answering questions fast. They all like to sing.
I like the idea of them firing it out, to be fair. I think that'd be way more fun.
Yeah.
And finally, can you finish this sentence? Success isn't about winning. Success is...
just doing better every time, every opportunity, just gradually doing better.
Gez, you have been an absolute star. We are so grateful for your time, and that insight is just so helpful for all our listeners, all our players, all our coaches. Honestly, we can't thank you enough. We wish you the absolute best of luck in the rest of the season, and we will absolutely be watching from over here in the UK. So thank you again for coming on the Best Netball podcast ever.
Thank you. Appreciate your time, and thanks for everyone for your support, and hopefully go Mavs.
Go Mavs.
Loved hearing what Gez had to say. That was blooming brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very lucky. Thank you once again for taking the time to do that with us, and hearing all that information has inspired me even more.
What, to become Australian?
To get to Australia, for sure.
Moving on then, we have friend of the show now, Claire Talks Netball.
So we have just got over that epic interview with Gez Murphy, and we are now joined by the lovely Claire Talks Netball, who is literally spearheaded the campaign of putting netball on the map. And I think everyone is so grateful for the influence and the impact that you're having in the netball social world. Welcome, Claire. How are you?
I'm very well. I am slowly melting. But yeah, no, I'm very well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It is hot this week, isn't it? I think people perhaps don't appreciate what it's like in the UK when it's sort of 35 degrees.
No, everything comes to a standstill, doesn't it? Literally. I mean, I'm grateful because I look out of my window and I can see the sea. So I know that I can just, run down to the sea and have a quick dip. But my goodness, if you're working in a city or live in a city, I feel for you. I truly do.
I'm so jealous that that's your view. It's quite fitting to be so. We're talking all things SSN in Australia, who I'm sure have the sun all year round. You've obviously just heard that interview with Gez. What were your thoughts?
I just find it very interesting listening to a male perspective of netball as well. And I think he's just so eloquent in the way that he talks about it, and very direct and quite, he's obviously incredibly knowledgeable surrounding it. And I think he's done a fantastic job with Melbourne Mavericks this season. Obviously, off the back of the signings that Tracy Neville did at the end of last season. But I think what he's done and the development of that club is just so exciting. And I think, to be honest, I've been following him on the socials, and I've been following Melbourne Mavericks on the socials, and I feel like they have really stepped up the game. I've really enjoyed listening to their Grill the Coach episodes that they do on social media, which have been just so exciting, and I really hope that some of the NSL clubs think of doing something similar to that. I know we've seen a lot more of that within the NSL, and the coaches have been sort of talked, are doing a bit more on social media and things. But yeah, I thought that was really quite innovative, and it's giving what the fans what they want, like a little bit of an insight into his thoughts on the games and what they could have done better and what went well and the different statistics and stuff that they look into and the analysis that goes into every game. Yeah, I really enjoy listening to him.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Claire. I think you're absolutely right about the male perspective. I think that the sport needs that. I always find it quite interesting. I've listened to quite a lot of his interviews. You almost forget that he's also a player. I think that's because in our world, obviously, it is such a predominantly female sport. And I think we're used to maybe hearing a male coaching voice, but he quite regularly sort of flex back, doesn't he, to his playing time, whether that's still now or previously. I like that. It feels more real. And I know, obviously, most of the coaches probably have played to a high level or every level, but I think that just puts that little bit of this different dynamic. And I couldn't agree more about his work with the Mavericks. I think it's almost created a bit of a blueprint. I think he's very reflective, very analytical. So he's seen what plays out, what works, and then reflecting back. And that blueprint it's like fair game, isn't it? Here you go, other clubs. Here you go, NSL. Like, this is work. This has achieved our objectives, and now it's available for anyone to have. And that's really generous. I think that the league and the sport needs more of that, because these great minds, these great talents, they're only going to help the trajectory of netball across the world. So yeah, I'm really glad we got him on, and I think I couldn't agree more with your thoughts on that.
Like, obviously coming from sort of a social media standpoint, which is ultimately a massive way of how we're going to get more eyes in front of the telly's watching and netball in more mouths and talking about it and things. I loved there was a video that really sticks in my mind where it's a clip from, it must be a tactical timeout or maybe a break in quarters or something, where he really, you can see the passion and he really goes in on the players, but not in a sort of grilling and a nasty, malicious kind of way, but very much like, what on earth are you doing? Like, is what he says. And I just feel like that kind of, we need that. The common perception of netball is that it's still quite a prissy, soft kind of sport. And we all know in the netball world, people who play it and people who view it, that is absolutely not how it is. And so I quite like seeing that kind of raw emotion from the coaches, much like how we saw the raw emotion from Sam Bird. I love seeing that raw emotion. And you're right as well, it's really lovely that he reflects back on his being a player, which I think holds so much weight, because I think he can probably relate a lot more to, what the players potentially are going through and things. And it feels a bit more relatable, I guess, when you've got a coach who continues to play. And I just feel as if we need more of that. We need more personalities is my big thing within netball. And although he's not big and brash, I just think he's the right fit. And I think Melbourne Mavericks have done amazing, and a lot of it is down to him.
Yeah, I agree. And we're in such a lucky period of time, aren't we, where we can have this level of interaction with sport and with netball on the other side of the world, where I'm so grateful to the social media platforms and the broadcasting platforms that let us watch. Yeah, and you're right. I mean, we're sitting in the UK, we're watching, obviously, the invested in the NSL, but we're privileged enough to be able to get this level of access to a coach that is playing, like I said, in the country renowned for netball, the world number one. I agree. What do you think is next in Australia's world? I mean, obviously Commonwealth Games, the favourites, they're the world number one. Do you think there'll be much more of that coming over to the UK, that style? Are we going to lose any of our players to the SSN? What do you think is going to happen?
In terms of the Commonwealth Games, it's Australia's to lose, really. I think the squad that they've put out is expected. I don't think there was anyone really that I sort of read on their squad announcement list that I was a bit like, not really sure about that. But I think it was expected. But I think in terms of the Commonwealth Games, it is the Diamonds to lose. But that's not saying that there aren't teams out there that can push for that gold medal. I think New Zealand have quite an interesting and quite a strong squad. And obviously they've got Nolene back at the helm, which will be interesting to see how that pans out. And then I don't think we can completely discount England either. I know we've had a bit of a turbulent time with Jess Thelby stepping away, and we've obviously had the announcement of Helen Housby, and a few of our big players like Jazz Brown and stuff will be out for the Commonwealth Games. But I don't want to rule us out, obviously being an England fan. And then you've got the underdogs of, and I don't want to even call them underdogs actually, but you've got South Africa. And South Africa is, I mean, you just have to watch Elma Ray van der Berg, and then you've got Rolling Strucker over here and Maseka and things. It's just, and in fairness, I haven't had the opportunity. There's not enough hours in the day to watch all the netball that is around. So I haven't watched much of the South African Telkom Netball League. However, from the series that we played against them at the beginning of the year, I don't think you can count them out either. And then you've obviously got Jamaica. So, honestly, Commonwealth Games is just, I do personally think it's going to be the Diamonds. It's going to be Australia's to lose. But, I mean, those 4 teams, they can easily push. They could easily, give them the right opportunities and the right mind frame, mindset, all of that. I don't think we can just completely just sit back and go, oh, well, it's going to be Australia's, because I think it could be so exciting. In terms of when you were saying about players going over to the SSN, I mean, there were a couple of players that I did think that would probably go this season that didn't go. So the likes of Fumi Fidoju, Liv Sheen, I did wonder that they would probably go to SSN. So it'll be interesting. I know the signing windows have opened now for the NSL clubs. And so, we're all going to be waiting on the edge of our seat to find out what's going on. For Fumi and Liv, I obviously, as a London Pulse fan, it would be heartbreaking for them to go to the SSN. But then equally, I do feel that going over to the SSN, the opportunity and the development that you get as a player is just phenomenal. So we've just seen recently, Fran Williams is just, she's just grown and grown and grown over there. It's exciting for our girls to be able to have that opportunity if they do get offered, contracts and things over there. I wouldn't want us to lose our sort of style in our netball. We are obviously this year we've noticed that it's been a lot more physicality, and online there does seem to be a bit of a split between whether the physicality is a good thing. I personally quite enjoy a bit of the physicality as long as it doesn't get dangerous, and I feel as if our umpires have been quite on it with the physicality and calling on it and stuff. I quite enjoy it because, let's be fair, we watch netball because it's entertaining, and I'm not suggesting that it's not entertaining without a bit of physicality. But you take the grand final, for example, we were all looking forward to the matchup between Scholes and McKevitt and Halley and Elle. We all knew that it was going to be spicy. We all knew that there was going to be, those altercations. And how exciting was it to watch with that? But I wouldn't ever want us to completely change our style to mimic that of another nation. I don't think that would be an attribute to us if we did decide, because we've got some fantastic players that are coming up through our pathways. If you just look at some of our next gen players and that have had the opportunity this season to step up and out, we've got some really good players coming through our mix, and it's just so exciting.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I agree with everything you've said, and I think it is just almost adding that cherry on the top, isn't it? When players will transfer, bringing different styles of netball, learning from each other. Like I said earlier, having the privilege and the access to watch games all over the world. And that's my off-season plan. I was thinking, I'm going to devastate the end of the NSL. But actually, you can go back on YouTube and I want to watch some of those South Africa games, those Jamaica games. It's going to be really exciting to carry that on.
That's absolutely what my plan is that I'm now going to start watching. I'm going to catch up on the SSN of all the games that I just haven't had the time or the opportunity to be able to watch. So that is going to be my plan.
Team back to the grand final, but I couldn't agree more about those matchups. And I was saying at the time to Chris and Bex when we were there that it makes me laugh that they're also teammates, that physicality, that those mashups, especially, booth with Odu and Al Carnival. I'm like, you're also on the same Roses team. Just please stay friends after.
Adio and El. So in the arena, because I went back and I watched the stream because I'm a loser, because I literally wanted to see what it was like on the telly as well as being in the arena. And I went back and there was a moment that I noticed, and both me and Dan, my husband, were like, oh, this is getting spicy, because I think it was Halima Adio ended up pushing El at one point because they were both just getting so physical and frustrated with each other. And she ended up pushing, and I could hear murmurings around me of being like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And I think she got booed. But then I was saying to Dan, right at the end, after they won the game and everything, and the players were going around, Hallie and Elle both walked up to each other and gave each other a massive hug. And like, that is the kind of stuff that we need to see. And I was gutted that I did not have my phone out, because I really wanted to talk about the fact that, yes, we have this physicality on court, but these girls off court, like Hallie and Elle are, like you say, they're in the Rosie squad. Like they're teammates, like they get on with each other. And that was just such a beautiful moment to see that actually on court, yes, they're against each other. They get physical. Like, you know, at times I think there was lots of elbows flying about, arms getting tangled. It was just brilliant entertainment. But then off court, as soon as they were off court, big hugs. Like it was all like, it seemed to be, the perception was it was all like swept under the bridge, professional, and yeah, just absolutely stunning. And that's the kind of stuff that we need, because I know there has been a lot of talk about physicality and it's being filtered down into grassroots. And, you know, some of the younger players are obviously looking at these NSL players and then they're trying to pop it into their game. And I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that. However, it does mean that the coaches need to be a bit more responsible of sort of speaking about sportsmanship and what it means to, you know, congratulate a team member at the end of it, and to not take things off court and to try and not take things personally when you're on court. And I know that's incredibly hard, even for somebody who is today 37. I just think that maybe we just need to have a bit more conversations with our younger players around sort of physicality, because it is going to be something that they're going to be witnessing in the NSL. But I just thought those moments are they're quite key with, I think, showing our younger players that you can be like that on court, but then you don't take it off court. Off court, you can still be friends off court. It is possible to hate each other on court and be best mates off court.
Is it your birthday today?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, today. 37.
Woo! Right, I think we better wrap it up. I feel like we could obviously talk netball all day. This is what we do. This is who we are.
I know. I literally are kids.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, as always, for your time and your input. And are you going to the Commonwealth Games at all?
Yes, I've got my mum, my dad, my best friend, my husband, and my two boys. We're all going to the final. So whoever it may be, we're going to be there for the finals. So yeah, very excited.
We will see you there. Thank you once again, Claire. Have a lovely birthday. Go and put your feet up, get pampered, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Before we finish, as always, we have to say a massive thank you to our amazing sponsors, Akuma Sports. Everything that you've heard today will be in our Magic show notes, and you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or you can email us. Thanks for listening.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye for now. Thank you.